Okay, at the end of the last video, I said we were starting section 6.2, but that's wrong. This is still section 6.1. We're going to talk about factoring by grouping. So the first thing you do is you look at all four terms, because this is what we do when we have a polynomial with four or more terms. So looking at all four, you factor out a GCF that's common to all four of them, if you have one. Then you group the first two terms and the second two terms. You factor out the GCF from group 1, and then you factor out the GCF from group 2. Then you factor out the common polynomial factor, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. And then, of course, you can multiply to check if you want to. So let's look at a squared plus 4ab minus 3ac minus 12b squared. Okay, there are no greatest common factors for all four terms because the a squared term doesn't have a numerical coefficient except for 1. The third term doesn't have a b. The fourth term doesn't have an a. So the first thing we do is we group the terms, the first two and the last two. So I'm going to group the a squared with the 4ab, and I'm going to group the negative 3ac with the negative 12bc. Now notice I put the negative inside the parentheses and kept it with its term and put a plus there. That's so we don't screw up the signs. So now, if we look at this first parentheses, our GCF is going to be a. So we take out an a. That leaves us with a squared over a plus 4ab over a. Now let's do the same thing with the second set of parentheses. So we have 3 and 12. The only thing that multiplies to give us 3 is 1 and 3 goes into 12. Also, since the 3, which is in our leading term in that parentheses, is negative, we'll take out a negative 3. Okay, now, the second term doesn't have an a, so we don't put that in our GCF. The first term does not have a b, so the b doesn't go in our GCF. But they both have a c to the first power, so the c does go in our GCF. Then we have negative 3ac, and remember we divide by our GCF. And then plus a negative 12bc divided by a negative 3c from our GCF. So now we can do some canceling within each parentheses. We can do the division. So from the first one, we have the a out front. A squared divided by a is a, plus 4ab divided by a is 4b. Then we have minus 3c. Okay, in the next one, the negative 3's cancel out and the c's cancel out. So that leaves us with just an a. Negative 3 goes into negative 12, a positive 4 times, and the c's cancel each other out. So that leaves us with plus 4b. Now if you look, in our first term, we have an a times, in parentheses, an a plus 4b. Our second term has the same thing in parentheses. So I'm circling the common polynomial factor here. So what we do is we take that and we move it out front. And then our second parentheses is what was left that I did not circle. So that's a minus 3c. And now we're factored. Okay, let's try the next one. So I'm going to start by grouping here. So I'm going to group my first two, x to the fourth minus 7, plus, and I'm going to group my second two, 6x to the fourth y minus 42y. Okay, let me put my parentheses in here. So the first one doesn't have a GCF, but it does have a 1 out front. Okay, so let's just bring that down since we can't do anything with it. Now the second one, let's see, let's do our numbers. We have 6 and we have 42. So 6 is 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. 42 is 1 times 42, 2 times 24, 3 times 4. Nope, 3 times 14 does not work. Okay, let's see, 3. Oh, yes, it does. Never mind. 3 times 14. 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, and 6 times 7. So, our largest factor in common is the 6. So, we're going to take a 6 out. Okay, the second term does not have any x's, and they each have a y. So, our common factor is 6y. So that leaves us with an x to the fourth. Sorry, we should probably do this by showing it. So inside that's 6x to the fourth y over x, over 6y minus 42y over 6y. So, again, we can't do anything to that first term yet. Simplifying in the parentheses in our second term. The 6's cancel, the y's cancel, so that leaves us an x to the fourth from the first term. In the second term, 6 goes into 42 7 times, and the y's cancel, which leaves us with just minus 7. So now our common polynomial factor is x to the fourth minus 7. So if we take out the x to the fourth minus 7, what we're left with is the 1 in front in the first term and the plus 6y in front from the second term. And that's our final answer. Now, that really is the end of 6.1. So we'll pick up with 6.2 next time.